Hello subscribers! This is the first in a 9-part series where I rate every anime I've ever seen, with a few caveats. Caveat number 1, I will not be doing any Studio Ghibli animes like Spirited Away or Princess Mononoke, just because my memories of most of those, except for Spirited Away, are pretty slim, and I think Studio Ghibli deserves a little better than that. Though to be fair, most of the animes I'm covering deserve better than what I'm gonna give them. I don't mean they deserve better in the rating I give them, I mean they deserve better videos. Caveat number 2, if the anime is too mainstream, like Pokemon and Digimon, even though those are both technically Japanese animes, they don't feel like Japanese animes to me. Because Pokemon is just way too popular, and Digimon I watched as a Saturday morning cartoon. Same with Shaman King, and possibly some others. Also, the anime should be Japanese, so I will not be covering Avatar, The Last Airbender, since even though it seems like a Japanese anime, it wasn't actually made in Japan. But if I were covering it, it'd get 5 stars. Anyway, this video covers my highest rated animes. And now that we got the caveats out of the way, let's get on with the show. It should be no surprise for any anime fan to find Death Note at the top of any anime list. If you never heard of Death Note, you obviously don't watch anime. It is a must-see. And I put it at the top of the list because it's not only a must-see for fans of anime, but even if you've never seen any anime ever, you should still see this one. I believe it is the most accessible anime for people who don't like anime or think anime is weird. The show is about Light Yagami, a kid who is either in high school or just starting college. I can't be sure which because it's set in Japan and it's been a while since I've seen it. Anyway, he's the son of a detective and he finds a notebook which allows him to kill people just by writing their name in it with their face in mind. So naturally, he does what any college student would do. He immediately plays God and decides he's gonna kill every criminal for literally every crime. And he's gonna do it in a predictable fashion, i.e. heart attack, so everyone knows why the people are dying. And in the very second episode, we're introduced to L, a private investigator who, conveniently enough, never uses his real name and keeps his identity secret. And by the end of the second episode, he has Light's location narrowed down to what I think amounts to a zip code. If you're not hooked after just the second episode, I don't know what to tell you. The entire series is a cat and mouse game, and the writing is impeccable. Death Note gets 5 stars. As a side note, there are also some live-action versions, an American version, and a 2-part Japanese version. Do not watch the American version, it is garbage. The casting of William Dafoe as Ryuk was perfect, nobody could have been a better fit, but that is the only good thing I have to say about that movie. The Japanese version, on the other hand, sticks with the source material and still changes enough to make it stand on its own. And as a bonus, the dub uses the same voices as from the anime, at least with the 2 main characters. There is more than one anime with the title Codeus, but the only one that matters, and the only one I've seen, is Lelouch of the Rebellion. Lelouch is a high schooler, I think, who likes to play high-stakes chess, who happens upon a certain power that allows him to control the minds of others, and of course, the first thing he does with his new power is to command the soldiers who try to kill him for being in the wrong place to kill themselves instead, which they happily obey. You might start noticing some similarities between Lelouch and Light in that they are both geniuses who gain a very OP power and both try to take over the world. sort of. However, in Death Note, even though Light Yagami was the protagonist, he was most certainly evil, and the anime didn't try to convince you otherwise. But Lelouch, on the other hand, is a much more complicated character. You don't fully understand why he does what he does, and the way he goes about it until the end. And whether you think he was right or wrong, you will like the way it ends. Codeus is also a lot more emotional than Death Note. It's a lot easier to grow attached to characters and hope they don't die. I want to say that controlling the will of other people is actually not Lelouch's most impressive power, but I don't really want to say more than that because spoilers. Codeus gets 5 stars easily. It's a lot more anime than Death Note, in that it's got mechas and superpowers, but I would still highly recommend it even to people who don't watch anime. Fullmetal Alchemist is about 2 brothers who try to use alchemy to bring back their dead mother, and in the process Edward, the older brother, loses an arm and a leg, and Alphonse, the younger brother, loses his entire body, and has to survive as a disembodied soul trapped in a suit of armor. They spend the rest of the series trying to find a way to fix their mistake. Fullmetal Alchemist holds the distinct honor of being an anime with the best filler, because unlike most animes that try to fill time while the manga gets the next issue out, the team behind Fullmetal Alchemist said, nah, we'll just finish the story ourselves, and they ended up with a pretty decent story. Unfortunately, it had a very bittersweet ending. It was not the happiest of animes. But they made a movie which did soften the blow, but that's all it did. I don't want to spoil it, but imagine the end of Ant-Man and Wasp, but instead of Ant-Man being stuck in the quantum realm by himself, he's stuck with his best friend. You know, the one who talks a lot. Still stuck, but at least he has a friend. Then, some years later, they came out with Brotherhood, since the manga was finished, so they make a version that's more in line with the manga, and it ends so much better. However, they made a mistake when making it. Possibly 2. There is a scene in both versions about a chimera. If you've seen Fullmetal Alchemist, then you know exactly what scene I'm talking about. And Brotherhood dropped the ball on it. Of course, I don't want to spoil it, so explaining it is kind of difficult, but basically Brotherhood insults your intelligence. There's a sort of mystery happening with how this chimera was made, and Brotherhood just straight up tells you, where the original Fullmetal Alchemist lets you stew on it for just a bit longer, like a second. And in the process, lets Edward show his intelligence by figuring out something the audience possibly doesn't know yet. Also, there is a certain death that happens, and I think the original was more emotional than Brotherhood, but I could be mistaken on that one. I haven't done a side-by-side comparison to be sure. So on their own, I would rate either version 4 stars. But together, maybe watch the first half on the original, then finish with Brotherhood, then I give them both together 5 stars. Trigun is a steampunk western set in the future. Vash the Stampede is wanted with a $6 billion double-dollar bounty on his head. He's wanted because, as you find out, he destroyed an entire town in some great explosion or something, but nobody died. So the insurance company that insured that town was not happy. So they sent 2 insurance agents to find Vash the Stampede and keep him from destroying more towns. So Vash is pretty much a genius, but he's the type to not let you know he's a genius. If you can name a trick shot, he can probably pull it off, and he can dodge bullets while keeping an exact count of how many bullets were fired. I'm actually not sure what else I would want to say about it, other than it gets 5 stars. Mob Psycho 100 is made by the same, person or studio that made One Punch Man, and is similar in that the main protagonist is OP, and it's a comedy. Except Mob, the main character, is OP with psychic power rather than physical strength. In fact, he's actually pretty weak physically, and Mob Psycho 100 is funnier than One Punch Man. Also, Mob is not as OP as One Punch Man. He can actually lose a fight or be rendered powerless. Mob Psycho is the only comedy in this video. Some of the others can have some lighthearted moments or even funny moments, but only Mob Psycho can claim the title of my highest rated comedy anime with 5 stars. ReZero is still ongoing as I make this video, so it is not eligible for that 5th star, but it is probably my favorite out of all currently ongoing animes that I watch. The main character, Subaru Natsuki, is a loser with no prospects in life. One day he gets transported to another world where he soon finds out that every time he dies, he goes back in time to a certain point to try again. If you've seen The Edge of Tomorrow starring Tom Cruise, also sometimes called Live, Die, Repeat, it's like that, except unlike Tom Cruise's character in that movie, Subaru is pretty much bad at everything, and no matter how many times he dies, he can't get good. Pretty much every solution is the result of him asking someone else for help. Also, he doesn't put up with dying the way Tom Cruise's character did. Dying for Subaru is painful and hard. He spends an entire episode catatonic from the stress. I cannot fully articulate how good this anime is. To be fair, I can't really articulate how good any anime is. But right now, I've only seen through the first part of the 2nd season, and more than any other anime, I cannot wait to see the rest. 4 stars, most likely 5 when it finishes. One of the things that make this anime great is that they don't try to be rigid with the end credits. If they have more scenes to show, they will play it during the credits, if they have to. And once per season, so far, an episode will end with credits that make it look like the end of the season. But you know there is still more episodes to go. They aren't afraid to make each episode count. Demon Slayer is about a boy whose family is slaughtered by demons, except one sister who is herself turned into a demon. And in order to save her and return her to normal, he becomes a Demon Slayer. The only Demon Slayer who travels with a demon in a box on his back. He does have a special power, though, that helps with this task. He smells really good. Not like B.O. smell, he's a human bloodhound to the extreme. For example, he can smell emotions. Another power he has is that he is unusually kind, which doesn't sound like a power when I say it, but trust me, when you watch the anime, it kinda seems like a power. Obviously, these are not very impressive powers, especially considering the demons have blood magic, and that's what makes this anime so good. He has to kill all these demons using only sword and breathing techniques. Now, water does appear to come out of his sword when he strikes, but it is unclear if the characters can see this water, or if it's just artistic representation for the benefit of the audience. I loved what I saw in the 1st season, and it's still ongoing, so 4 stars. And the movie, Mugen Train, was actually a continuation. I would say it's the most canon movie I've ever seen from an anime. Like, most anime movies that I've seen are either not canon, or they're canon but they're out of the way. Like, you don't have to watch them. But with Demon Slayer, you gotta watch Mugen Train. It's basically the 2nd season, except it's only got 1 story. Whoops, I almost forgot Attack on Titan. 4 stars because it's still ongoing as I make this recording. The final season has started, but they're only halfway through it. Still waiting on the 2nd half. In fact, I was actually hoping that the 2nd half would be finished by the time I made this video so I could know for sure whether or not it was 5 stars. Because what they have right now is worth 5 stars, although it could turn on a dime. I have no idea how they're gonna end it, so I have no idea what I think about the ending. It could change. It could change it from a 5-star to a 4-star anime. So Attack on Titan is about the last city on Earth trying to survive against giants that eat people, and only people. I want to say that if you watch Attack on Titan, give it at least 7 or 8 episodes. That is where I think if you don't like it by then, you're not gonna like it. Though I don't know how you can not like it. It is fantastic. Yeah, I'm not gonna go into much detail, but let's be fair, I haven't gone into much detail about most of these animes. Well, it looks like I also forgot to write a script for Emiyasha. Emiyasha starts with Kagome, a high school girl, falling into a well she has in her backyard, and coming out of the well in feudal Japan. where she quickly meets and releases from his imprisonment Emiyasha, a half-demon. They then go on some adventures together, slaying demons, and falling in love along the way. Emiyasha basically has everything. It's got action, romance, comedy, drama. Not so much drama that anybody actually dies, but good enough. For most of the anime, I would say it's a 4 stars, but because of how it ends, I upgrade it to a 5-star anime. So, spoiler alert for the ending, but everybody gets married. This is kind of a big deal because there's not a lot of animes that actually gives you that kind of happy conclusion. Ranma 1/2, for example, which I bring up because they seem to use the same voices. Inuyasha and Ranma have the same voice actor, and I think Ryoga and Koga, respectively, the same voice actor. And Master Hapusai from Ranma shares the voice actor with the cricket, whose name I don't remember, in Inuyasha. There's probably other voices that are similar that I just don't recognize. But in Ranma, one of the main plot points is Ranma having all these fiancés, and it's obvious he's gonna marry Akane, but because Ranma's a sitcom, it never ends. It never concludes. So you're just sort of left in the air. But with Inuyasha, you get your happy ending. Everybody gets married, everybody's happy. So I guess technically Inuyasha is my highest rated romance. Although it's not pure romance, but most animes worth watching aren't. But if Re:Zero ever finishes, I don't know. So, just to recap, Death Note, 5 stars. Codeus, 5 stars. Fullmetal Alchemist, both the original and Brotherhood together, 5 stars. Emiyasha, 5 stars. Trigun, 5 stars. Re:Zero, if it ever finishes, it'll probably get 5 stars, but for now it's 4 stars. That just reminded me. I forgot to mention, I think, at least I certainly forgot to mention it in the intro, that in order to get a 5-star rating, it has to be a complete anime. I might have mentioned that somewhere in the actual video, but I am recording these intros and outros very separately. And in order to get a 1-star, I basically have to not finish it, unless it's, like, so short I can't not finish it. Anyway, moving on with the recap, Demon Slayer, 4 stars, because it's not yet complete. Mob Psycho 100, 5 stars. Attack on Titan, 4 stars. It's not yet complete. And in my next video, we will go over my second-rate animes.